season finale of the True Crime Never Sleeps podcast. I'm your host, Larry Elise. This is the podcast where I share true crime stories for your entertainment, but you might lose some sleep after listening to some of these stories. After reading about true crime stories, I condense all the content and bring valuable information to you. To stay up to date with all of our content, check us out on Twitter at TrueCrimeNS, and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform, including the new Good Pods. This show is sponsored by Poddex. Visit poddex.com, use the promo code Larry21 for 10% off your order. It's a pleasure to have you here. Now let's get into today's episode. Benazir Bhutto had opted for self-exile while her court cases for corruption remained pending in foreign and Pakistani courts. After 8 years in exile in Dubai and London, Bhutto returned to Karachi on October 18, 2007 to prepare for the 2008 national elections, allowed by a possible power-sharing deal with President Pervez Musharraf. Bhutto survived an assassination attempt in Karachi during his homecoming. En route to a rally in Karachi, 2 explosions occurred shortly after she had landed and left Jeddah International Airport returning from her exile. Bhutto was not injured, but the explosions, later found to be a suicide bomb attack, killed 139 people and injured 450. The dead included at least 50 of the security guards from her Pakistani People's Party who had formed a human chain around her truck to keep potential bombers away, as well as 6 police officers. A number of senior officials were injured. Bhutto was escorted unharmed from the scene. After the bombing, Bhutto and her husband asked Musharraf for greater security, including tinted windows, jammers for bombs, private guards, and 4 police vehicles. These calls were echoed by 3 U.S. senators who wrote to Musharraf. Bhutto's supporters and the Pakistani government dispute whether or not she was provided adequate protection. The Israeli newspaper reported that Bhutto further asked the U.S. CIA, Britain's Scotland Yard, and Israel's Mossad several weeks before the assassination to help provide for her protection. Israel had not yet decided whether or not to provide aid because it did not want to upset relations with Pakistan and India. Bhutto also tried to obtain private security personnel approaching both U.S.-based Blackwater and UK-based Arbor Group. However, the Pakistani government refused to give visas to foreign security contractors. Despite this, American diplomats provided Bhutto with confidential U.S. intelligence on threats against her. After the assassination, President Musharraf denied that Bhutto should have received more security, saying that her death was primarily her own fault because she took unnecessary risks and should have exited the rally more quickly. Benazir Bhutto had just addressed a rally of Pakistani People's Party supporters in the city of Rawalpindi when the rally was rocked by an explosion. Initial police reports stated that 1 or more assassins fired at Bhutto's bulletproof white Toyota Land Cruiser just as she was about to drive off after the rally. A suicide bomber detonated a bomb next to her vehicle followed. According to Getty Images photographer John Moore, Bhutto was standing through her vehicle's sunroof to wave at supporters and fell back inside after 3 gunshots. Times of India aired an amateur clip showing the assassin firing 3 gunshots at Bhutto before the blast. Various videos have surfaced on YouTube, but sources are difficult to confirm. Following the incident, an unconscious Bhutto was taken to a nearby hospital at 5:35 p.m., where doctors led by Mohammed Sadiq Khan tried to resuscitate her, performing a left lateral thoracotomy for open cardiac massage. Sadiq Khan, Muhammad Khan's father, had tried to save Ali Khan when he was assassinated in the same park and rushed to the same hospital in 1951. Although Pakistan People's Party spokesman Faratollah Babar initially said that Bhutto was safe, which was declared dead at 6:16 p.m. Benazir Bhutto's cause of death has been much discussed and debated. Some commentators suggested that this debate was motivated by attempts to define her legacy. Perhaps Bhutto would be considered a martyr if she died by gunshot, but not if she died by hitting her head following a bomb blast. Others asserted that the arguments against death by gunshot were intended to blunt criticism that she was not adequately protected. Initial reports based on Pakistani Interior Ministry information reported that Bhutto was killed by a gunshot wound to the neck. Rehman Malik, a security advisor for Pakistani People's Party, suggested that the killer opened fire as Bhutto left the rally and that he hit her in the neck and chest before he detonated the explosives he was wearing. Javid Shima, an Interior Ministry spokesman, stated that her injuries were caused either by her having been shot or from pellets packed in the detonated bomb that acted as shrapnel. On December 28th, however, the cause of Bhutto's death became less clear. Pakistan's Interior Ministry announced that they now felt Bhutto's death was as a result of a neck fracture, sustained when she ducked or fell into her vehicle and hit the sunroof catch immediately after the gunshots, but later reported her cause of death as a skull fracture. According to an Associated Press report, the ministry stated, quote, Bhutto was killed when she tried to duck back into the vehicle. The shockwaves from the blast knocked her head into a lever attached to the sunroof, fracturing her skull. The ministry further added, in contradiction to the official hospital account, that Bhutto suffered no gunshot or shrapnel injuries and that all gunshots missed her. The Pakistan People's Party spokesman Faratullah Babar rejected claims that Bhutto's death was caused by an accident. Bhutto's lawyer and a senior official in the Pakistan People's Party, Farooq Naik, said that the report was baseless and a pack of lies. He went on to support the view that the cause of death was 2 bullets hitting Bhutto in the abdomen and the head. An anonymous Toyota official also rejected the notion she could have even hit the lever based on its location in the car, which was a Toyota Land Cruiser. In statements made to Pakistan's The News, Mohammed Musaddiq Khan, one of the doctors who treated Bhutto at the hospital, described severe and depressed skull fractures, oval and overall shape on the right side of Bhutto's head. He apparently saw no other injuries and downplayed the possibility of bullet wounds, although he had previously spoken to them. One anonymous doctor said that Pakistani authorities took Bhutto's medical records immediately after her death, and that they told doctors to stop talking. On December 31st, Athar Manala of the General Hospital released a statement signed by 7 persons involved in Bhutto's treatment at the hospital. These persons were not pathologists and did not conduct a formal autopsy. The statement first narrates the course of treatment from Bhutto's arrival at the hospital until she was declared dead. The second part of the statement details the head wound and notes that, quote, detailed external examination of the body did not reveal any other external injury, end quote. X-rays had been taken of the head wound and were interpreted in the statement. The cause of death was to be, quote, open head injury with depressed skull fracture leading to cardiopulmonary arrest. According to the Washington Post, the crime scene was cleared before any forensic examination could be completed, and no formal autopsy was performed before burial. Despite the ambiguity surrounding her death, Bhutto's husband did not allow a formal autopsy to be conducted, citing his fears regarding the procedure being carried out in Pakistan. On January 1st, 2008, Pakistan's Interior Ministry backtracked on its statement that Benazir Bhutto had died from hitting her head on the sunroof latch. The ministry spokesman said that the ministry would wait for forensic investigations before making a conclusion on Bhutto's cause of death. On February 8th, 2008, investigators from Scotland Yard concluded that Benazir Bhutto died after hitting her head and she was tossed by the force of a suicide blast, not from an assassin's bullet. However, as quoted in an article in the New York Times, quote, it is unclear how the Scotland Yard investigators reached such conclusive findings, absent autopsy results or other potentially important evidence that was washed away by cleanup crews in the immediate aftermath of the blast. In the report, UK Home Office pathologist Nathaniel Carey said that while a gunshot wound to the head or trunk could not be entirely excluded as a possibility. Quote, the only tenable cause for the rapidly fatal head injury in the case is that it occurred as a result of impact due to the effects of the bomb blast. The findings were consistent with the Pakistani government's explanation of Bhutto's assassination, an account that had been greeted with disbelief by Bhutto's supporters. Bhutto's funeral occurred on the afternoon of December 28, 2007. Her body was moved from Chakala Air Base to Sakar Airport on December 28th at 1:20 a.m. Both her children and her husband traveled with her body. Earlier, they reached Chakala Air Base by a special flight to get her body. Mourners from all over Pakistan made their way to Liaquat to take part in the funeral ceremony for the former Prime Minister. The family delivered the body to its site of burial via helicopter. Bhutto was laid to rest beside her father in the family tomb. And that is all we have for this episode of the True Crime Never Sleeps podcast. And as this is our season finale, we'll come back in 2 weeks for an all-new season with a focus on mass shootings and terrorist attacks. But before we go, we'd like to hear your thoughts on Benazir Bhutto. Do you think she was assassinated or did she die from an accident? Let us know in the comments section below. As always, hit that subscribe button. Like our videos. If you do like them, you can leave us a rating on Spotify now. And if you want to support the show and help us grow, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/TCNS. And we'd also like to thank our sponsor once again, Poddex, for sponsoring this episode. Check them out today, poddex.com, and use the promo code Larry21 for 10% off your order. They have some great content products to help you grow your podcast, so check them out today, poddex.com. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.